Oh, great. Another podcast. But don't worry, I'm not here pretending to teach you anything. I'm here to dismantle what you've been told is the absolute only way to do things and ask, who told you that? Why did they tell you that? Does it actually work? I'm Kelly. This is information for the jaded, the unconvinced, and the unconventional, where taking the time to finally ask these questions can be more satisfying than having all the answers. Fake it till you make it. If you've spent any time in the online business world, you've more than likely heard that. Probably from someone saying it with a lot of confidence. Probably as a permission slip to project certainty you don't yet have. Probably followed by something like, you only need to be one step ahead of your clients. And I never liked it. Even when it was everywhere. Even when it seemed like everyone was saying it. Something about it just never sat right with me. But I want to be clear before we go any further. My personal feelings about a topic are never the point of this podcast. Every time I put them to one side and do the research. So let's dive in. Who told you that? Why did they tell you that? And does it actually work? So, who told you that? Nobody is entirely sure where the phrase actually came from. It's first recorded sometime before 1973. The closest thing to an origin is a Simon and Garfunkel song from 1968 where Paul Simon sings, "I know I'm faking it, I'm not really making it." Not exactly a ringing endorsement, but hey, it rhymes. But the concept itself goes much further back. Aristotle said that to become virtuous, you must first act virtuously. That behaviour shapes identity. That you can act your way into a new way of being. Alfred Adler, the psychologist, developed a therapeutic technique in the 1920s called acting as if, where he encouraged patients to behave as though they already possessed the qualities they wanted to develop. In a clinical setting, with trained professionals, that's a legitimate tool. The phrase picked up serious momentum through the self-help industry in the 1970s and 80s. Then The Secret, in 2006, repackaged the same idea as act as if within the law of attraction. Think it, feel it, manifest it. Millions of copies sold. Then Amy Cuddy's 2012 TED Talk, the second most watched of all time, gave it a scientific gloss with the concept of power posing. Done like Wonder Woman for 2 minutes before a high-stakes situation. Get your testosterone up, get your cortisol down. Don't just fake it till you make it, she said. Fake it till you become it. It was simple. It was compelling. It was scientific. Only the science didn't hold up. When other researchers tried to replicate the study, they couldn't. The lead co-author of the original paper publicly abandoned the theory in 2016. The hormonal claims, the testosterone increase, the cortisol decrease simply didn't replicate. The psychological effects are still debated, but the confident scientific certainty with which it was sold to millions of people was not warranted. Cuddy earned speaking fees of up to $80,000 per event on the back of research that couldn't be independently verified. The irony of that is not lost on me. Why did they tell you that? The self-help and business coaching industries built entire product lines around this phrase, and the reason it sold so well is because it addresses a real feeling. The gap between who you are now and who you want to be to do the thing that you want to do, that gap's uncomfortable. And anything that promises to close it, or at least make it feel smaller, finds a ready market. But somewhere along the way, the original idea, act as if to build genuine confidence and competence, got compressed into something much simpler and much more dangerous. It became a permission slip not just to back yourself, but to claim expertise you don't have, to tell people you know things you don't know, to sell yourself as something you aren't yet. And it got especially toxic in the online business world, where the barrier to presenting yourself as an authority is essentially zero. The advice that sounds like courage is sometimes just a cover for something else, and the people selling it as universal wisdom rarely bear any of the cost when it goes wrong for the people who actually followed it. Psychology Today put it directly. The phrase has a very narrow and specific meaning in mental health treatment. In business and Silicon Valley, it has become, in their words, usually disastrous and often an indication of rampant institutional sociopathy and personal narcissism. So, does it actually work? Here's where I find it really interesting to look at the people behind it, because the honest answer is sometimes, and the difference between when it works and when it doesn't is more precise than you might think. I looked at 5 examples. 2 where it worked, 2 where it caused serious harm, and 1 that doesn't really fit neatly into either category. The ones where it worked, Bill Gates, 1975. Gates called the manufacturer of the Alta 8800 computer and told them he had a programming language that would run on their machine. He hadn't built it. He didn't even have experience with that specific computer, but he was confident he and Paul Allen could build it. They went away and they did build it. It worked. That became Microsoft's first product and the beginning of everything that they did. And then there's Frank Abagnale. You might know him as the man whose story became Catch Me If You Can, the Spielberg film with Leonardo DiCaprio. He claimed to have impersonated a Pan Am pilot, a doctor and a lawyer, all before the age of 21, cashing in millions in fraudulent checks and evading the FBI across 26 countries. He turned that story into a career as a fraud prevention expert, earning thousands per speaking appearance for decades. Except prison records show he was locked up during the years he claimed to be jetting around the world as a pilot. Pan Am officially rejected his claims. Of course they would. The Louisiana Attorney General's office called his story absolutely untrue and preposterous. They would as well. His former booking agent later admitted he was still telling bald-faced lies. The media weren't interested in the truth. No one wanted to ruin a story. The most famous fake it till you make it success story was itself a fake. But here's the thing, he did end up making it, just not in the way he claimed. He built a genuine career on a fabricated foundation, and the world largely accepted it for decades. Make of that what you will. So here are the ones that cause serious harm. Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of Theranos, a Silicon Valley health tech company that promised to revolutionize blood testing, running hundreds of tests from a single drop of blood. She raised hundreds of millions from investors. The company was valued at $9 billion. She was on magazine covers and hailed as the next Steve Jobs. Except the technology didn't work. It couldn't work. Scientists later concluded what she was claiming was physically impossible with the technology available. Patients received inaccurate blood test results. Investors lost hundreds of millions. Holmes was convicted of fraud in 2022 and sentenced to more than 11 years in prison. Stanford's reporter who broke the story described her grave error as channeling Silicon Valley's fake-it-till-you-make-it culture to a medical product with life and death implications. And then there's Paolo Macchiarini, a surgeon at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, home of the Nobel Prize for Medicine, who claimed to have pioneered artificial trachea transplants using patients' own stem cells, hailed as a pioneer, published in The Lancet, celebrated globally. Of the 20 patients who received his experimental tracheas, 17 died. He was convicted of gross assault. The court found he acted with criminal intent, aware of the risks and indifferent to them. One expert described his procedure as a tool of execution. And then there's Anna Delvey, real name Anna Sorokin, daughter of a Russian truck driver. She arrived in New York in her early 20s, invented a fake identity as a German heiress with a $67 million trust fund, and spent several years living in luxury hotels, attending exclusive events, befriending New York's art world, and convincing banks to loan her money. She scammed hotels, banks, and friends out of $275,000. Convicted of grand larceny in 2019, sentenced to 4 to 12 years in prison. And then Netflix paid her $320,000 for the rights to her story. She became an artist selling work for hundreds of thousands of dollars. She appeared on Dancing with the Stars wearing her ankle monitor as a fashion accessory. She has nearly 1 million Instagram followers. Under house arrest, she hosted a fashion show. Society genuinely couldn't decide whether to condemn her or admire her. And that's also revealing because there's something in us that responds to sheer audacity. To someone who looked at the world, decided the rules didn't apply to them, and just walked straight through all the doors. The question for me is who paid the price for that walk? Her friends did. The banks did. The people who trusted her did. That's always the question. Not did you make it, but who paid for you to try? There's a line between confidence and fraud. 5 people, 5 very different outcomes, all of them by some definition faking it. So what's the difference? Legally, the distinction between fake it till you make it and fraud comes down to 3 things, and they're more precise than you'd expect. Did you know what you were claiming was false when you claimed it? Gates said he had software he hadn't built yet, but he genuinely believed he could build it. He wasn't lying about a present fact, he was making a confident promise about a future one. Holmes knew her blood testing technology didn't work. Macchiarini knew his trickiers were failing. Delvey knew she had no trust fund. The intent to deceive was there from the start. Who bears the cost if it goes wrong? When Gates couldn't deliver, or if he couldn't deliver, the cost would have fallen on him and Allen, their contract, their credibility, their problem. When Holmes couldn't deliver, patients got wrong blood test results. When Macchiarini couldn't deliver, people died. When Delvey couldn't deliver, her friends lost their life savings and banks lost loans. When Abagnale's story unravelled, the cost fell on the audiences who paid thousands to hear a fraud prevention expert whose own story of fraud was itself fraudulent. The moment the cost of failure shifts from the person doing the faking onto the people who trusted them, the moral and legal picture changes entirely. And then whether the thing being claimed is even achievable. So Gates knew the underlying technology existed and that he had the skills to apply it. He was betting on himself to execute something technically possible. Holmes was claiming to have invented something that the scientific community later concluded was physically impossible with the technology available. You can't fake it till you make it if the thing you're claiming to have made doesn't and can't exist. Here's the thing that bothers me about how this phrase gets sold. It's presented like a harmless little saying, something you'd have on the front of a notepad or on a mug. Easy to repeat, easy to sell, it rhymes, job done. But it's more serious than that, and it deserves to be taken more seriously, because the line between the helpful version and the harmful version can get deliberately blurred by the people who benefit from the blurring. A catchy phrase that covers 2 completely different behaviours is very useful if you're selling the dangerous one. Which is why I keep coming back to this. Confidence in your competence is, I know that I can get there, but I need to be honest that I'm not there yet. Pretending that you are there isn't confidence before competence. That is claiming competence with confidence, and those are not the same thing. The phrase, fake it till you make it, covers both of those under one catchy saying, and that's problematic. The people selling the harmful version hide behind the legitimacy of the helpful one. So, does fake it till you make it work? Backing yourself before you feel ready, acting confident while you're still learning, committing to something before you're certain you can deliver, yes, there's genuine psychological and historical support for that version. Claiming expertise you don't have, presenting yourself as something you're not, letting other people bear the cost of your faking, the evidence is pretty clear on that one too. The phrase has been sold as one thing. It covers 2 completely different behaviours, and knowing which one you're being encouraged to do is probably the most important question you can ask before you take the advice. Who told you to fake it till you make it? Probably somebody who needed you to pay more attention to their confidence than their competence. I'm Kelly. This is information. Thanks for your time. I promise I won't waste it.